We have lots to discuss here in today's video, including some NHL trade talk around a variety of NHL teams. We have word tonight that Philip Danault in Los Angeles has requested a trade and would like to be moved out of the Kings organization. Plus, could we see a deal between the Leafs and the Flames? Further updates from TSN tonight indicate that the Leafs do have interest in Rasmus Andersson. Plus, we have some more talk around the New Jersey Devils and the Quinn Hughes trade and kind of how things went wrong for them to be able to acquire the star defenseman. Plus, lots of updates on the Buffalo Sabres. New GM Jarmo Kekalainen had a press conference today, lots of quotes, giving us lots to go on, including some potential moves we might see there. Plus, in Montreal, some more chatter around goaltending, with Samuel Montembeault being sent to the minors on a conditioning stint. All that, plus news from the waiver wire, and several injury updates coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here in today's video. We'll recap a couple of things that we talked about in a prior video quickly here, and then we'll get into the other news that has not been covered here yet. First, of course, this afternoon we put up a video looking at the waiver wire activity. Of course, we had one new player on waivers, 3 players on waivers yesterday, in which 2 of them ended up getting cleared. So new on waivers today was Vancouver Canucks forward Arshdeep Bains. Of course, Bains is still on the younger side of things, had some good stretches in junior and the American Hockey League, has yet to kind of put it together on a more consistent basis with the NHL team, but wouldn't be shocked again if he's picked up. We'll see if that happens or not tomorrow. But for today, we do know that Blackhawks goalie Laurent Brossoit, who is working his way back from injury, did clear waivers. I think the main detractor for teams is his contract, making over $3 million a year. I think, like I said in the other video, if the Blackhawks, now that he's cleared, are willing to retain some money or can figure that part of it out, they should be able to find a new home for him. As of right now, they don't have really any plans for him in the immediate future, and he is on an expiring contract. The 2 claims today was the St. Louis Blues claiming now former Red Wing forward, obviously Jonathan Berggren. Berggren was a player that I think a lot of Red Wings fans, at least a few years ago, wanted to see more consistently get an opportunity. A lot thought had an opportunity to be a pretty consistent top 6, top 9 forward. But between other moves they've made, other rookies coming through, they've kind of surpassed him, and he's kind of been the odd man out, looking for more of an opportunity. So he'll go to a struggling St. Louis team who's certainly looking to change things up here a bit, adding a younger forward with some scoring ability. Makes sense for them to give him an opportunity. The other claim today was the Boston Bruins claiming left shot defenseman Vladislav Kolyachonok, who goes over from the Dallas Stars. He's played for a few teams now in the NHL over the past couple of years. Besides Dallas, he also had stops with Pitt and Utah. Looks like a pretty serviceable third pair guy to me, so we'll see how things work out for him and the Bruins organization. A bunch of updates today on some injuries before we get into some other news here. The Toronto Maple Leafs today had some pretty key updates. One, Joseph Woll was able to return, so he's back. That's good news. But the bad news is Anthony Stolarz, of course, their other main goaltender here in the organization, has been out for quite some time, still not skating. We found out today that he is not progressing with his injury that is yet to be disclosed. Either we don't even know really what the injury is, but he is going to see another specialist due to the lack of progress, and it just doesn't sound promising. There's no timeline here. It still sounds like it could be an extended time, so not good on that front. With Woll's history of, yes, being a good goalie, but when he gets overplayed, he tends to get hurt more. Could be a problem. The Leafs did have a big comeback from behind win against the Blackhawks tonight, but overall, early part of the game still didn't look like a very good effort on the Leaf part. They're fortunate they got the win after some late third period dramatics, but overall, I don't think the fan base and really the team would have been too happy with the game and the effort overall. Some updates out of New Jersey as well. According to head coach Sheldon Keefe, Jack Hughes is still not close, so we're not sure an exact timeline, but we know he's going to be out until the new year sometime. Obviously, it could be an extended part of the new year, but we're waiting for further updates there. We still don't know if he's going to be at risk to miss Olympics or what have you, but all they would say is that he's not close. So we'll see what that leads us to. We could get further updates here after Christmas. Simon Nemec, of course. Nemec has been a pretty good player for them this year. He's going to be out for about at least 2 weeks. He'll be reevaluated at that time, so sometime in early January. And good positive news on Brett Pesce, who was able to be returned after a very long extended absence as well. Of course, we had the battle of the goaltenders that were just traded for each other tonight with Edmonton versus Pittsburgh, playing in the Penguins building tonight. So Stu Skinner get the battle of his old team. Tristan Jarry get the battle of his own team. The Oilers did pick up a 6-4 win. For the most part, it was a more dominant Oilers win. Probably should have been more like a 6-2 game, but Jarry did let in a couple of late ones in the third. Skinner probably didn't have a night that he was overly thrilled with, but it did lead to Leon Draisaitl hitting the 1,000 point plateau at 30 years of age. Pretty young guy to accomplish that. Obviously, a major milestone in his career. Leon has been one of the top handful of players in the game for an extended number of years now, so not really surprising to see him hit this milestone at this age. You know, him and McDavid were both dominating early, especially with multiple markers on the power play. I think Draisaitl had 3 or 4 assists tonight. So not only did he get .1000, but he went a couple of past that as well. So a huge night for Leon Draisaitl. Big win for the Edmonton Oilers and Tristan Jarry. Not a great debut for Stuart Skinner playing for the Penguins for the first time tonight. And of course, the Blackhawks, like I said, were playing the Maple Leafs tonight in Toronto. The team did announce earlier that Love Shunoff was going to be a healthy scratch tonight, which is basically a punishment for being late for practice. So another case of that. We saw that just the other day with Zibanejad. In Montreal tonight, Jacob Fowler played his third NHL game. They did lose 4-1 to the Philadelphia Flyers. Fowler, unfortunately, did have what we would call a goalie gaffe behind the net. Gave the puck away, which set up an easy, simple goal in the front. So I'm sure he'd like to have that back. Overall, Habs lose 2 out of 3 games now with Fowler. They've turned into losses. Generally speaking, he's been pretty decent, but I'm not sure that right now that he's ready for full-time duty. We'll have to wait and see. I don't know how the Habs feel about it, but I mean, he hasn't been bad. I just don't know that he's the immediate answer, that maybe letting him have some more time might be better, but I do think that they're probably going to give him an extended look, though. Mike Matheson was also out tonight day-to-day, and we also found out tonight that Samuel Montembeault, who hasn't played since December 2nd, so I mean we're coming up on not quite 2 weeks but close, is being sent to the American Hockey League on a conditioning stint, which he's allowed to stay there as much as 14 days. I don't think it's going to be that long. I suspect they're probably going to get him a couple of games prior to Christmas, and then he'll come back up and then they'll reevaluate. So I would think that probably the remaining few games that the Montreal Canadiens have between now and Christmas, they'll probably run with Dobush and Fowler, send Montembeault down to get a couple games in the AHL, and then they'll probably reevaluate once they come back from the short Christmas break. But we'll see. But that's big news on Montembeault going to the minors on a conditioning stint. There's lots of chatter still about a potential trade. I don't know that we're there yet with the Canadiens. Like I said before, I think that Fowler's performance is going to dictate how things go. And like I said, I think you can say that he's been good, but not amazing. You know, he's not like he's stealing the show here. And I don't know that they can say that he's been lights out better, right? So again, you know, you want to do what's best for the now and in the future, right? And for right now, I don't know what's best. Maybe, maybe Fowler needs more time. Do you want him to be mediocre? Do you want to let him kind of percolate some more so he can be more established and be a little stronger out of the gate? I'm not sure what's best. Goalie development can be very, very finicky. It's tricky at best. So it's hard to say what's best. I'm not sure I'm the expert in that category. But with Montembeault, are they going to give him a chance to find his game again? It's kind of difficult to say, but certainly the Habs have some decisions to make with goaltending and lots of uncertainty, we could say, where things go from here. In LA tonight, Darcy Kuemper has been added to injured reserve after the elbow chicken wing with forearm to the head neck area. No supplemental discipline for Rantanen, which I found surprising, but maybe we shouldn't be. Phoenix Copley was also recalled because of Kemper's absence, and also Seth Jones not getting anything for the forearm shiver to Brandon Hagel, who looks like they got him in the head again, and Florida once again gets away with it. I don't understand why they are continuously allowed to target Hagel's head and never seem to get in any kind of really disciplinary measures against them. Like it's so bizarre. I mean, I know a lot of people think it's conspiracy because of Gregory Campbell's association with the team to, of course, his dad working in the NHL, office. But I don't know. It just seems really sketchy that the Panthers never seem to be disciplined. At least that's the way it feels. Minnesota also activated Marcus Foligno tonight. They are having a big outing against the Washington Capitals tonight. I would say their confidence seems to be at an all-time high. They were already doing well. They got Quinn Hughes, of course. Other guys starting to play well. They seem to be just riding a wave here at the moment. Now, as I mentioned, on some other rumors here we want to take a look at, we'll start with the Sabres. Of course, we just saw the Sabres make a GM change. Former Blue Jackets general manager and who he was a senior advisor to the Sabres for several months here, Jarmo Kekalainen, is now the GM of the Buffalo Sabres. Held his first press conference today. I thought Jarmo Kekalainen made some interesting comments that I wanted to kind of discuss here. One, he mentioned character is the biggest part of talent. So obviously we know that from his time in Columbus, they value, character and hard work just about more than anything. They also went through a stretch where players didn't want to be there. They had to go through and, who wants to be here, who doesn't, trying to, create the culture of players who wanted to be there, wanted to play for that city and play for that jersey. And, so he knows all about some of the things that the Sabres have been through. In a sense, we've seen a number of players ask out over the years. Some are concerned we're getting close to having that happen again, although I don't think it's anything that has happened right now. So when it comes to Dahlin, Thompson, some of these other top names that have been rumored to have patience running thin, I don't think we're at that point today, which is good. Kekalainen also says that he's pretty confident in this team that they can get to the playoffs and get there this year. I'm not so sure. I think we need to be seeing some further change, but right now they are in a small winning streak. We'll see. He also says that he wants to evaluate anything and everything and everyone in this organization. Was asked about head coach Lindy Ruff and really had an opportunity to give him a ringing endorsement, if you will, and he did not take it. So I'm not saying there's going to be a coaching change, but it's got people thinking and talking. Is that something that could be on the horizon? Yes, the team's won the last few games, but will he wait to see if they kind of sputter out, or does he really think that somebody else is better off? I'm not really sure how he feels about it, but the fact that he wouldn't, kind of make a bold statement that Ruff wasn't going anywhere, he didn't do that. So good people talking. A lot of people chattering about John Tortorella, of course, who is currently working with ESPN and not in the coaching world at the moment, and certainly worked with Jarmo a long time in Columbus. So I don't know if he'll go to that or it's something he'll consider, but it's certainly something that people are talking about out there for sure. Kekalainen also mentions that he's not a fan of the 3-goalie system. Of course, they've had UPL, Lyon, Ellis, they got Levi in the minors. He's not a fan of having that many goalies at the NHL level, and that he wants to figure out what's best for the team to get down to a 2-goalie system. So I would suspect that if anything, maybe we'll see a goalie move first and foremost, whether it be, I think Ellis stays, so it's either Lyon or UPL. Lyon's probably easier to move because of the contract. UPL is a name that's been out there periodically, but again, they did give him a longer-term deal not too long ago. Do they still believe in him? Do they need to let him maybe have a chance to run with the ball here this year to kind of make that long-term decision? That might be the case. We'll see. But between him and Lyon, I would think there's a decent chance we'll see the new GM move one of them. Of course, Alex Tuch's contract, a big discussion point as well. Kekalainen did make mention that, it takes two sides to come to an agreement, but that they do like Tuch and that he would like to see him get signed and stick around. But again, negotiations have to lead to an agreement to make that happen. But it sounds like he would like to at least try. So I would suspect that before we ever see an Alex Tuch trade, that we're going to see, a better effort at negotiations before they, and exhaust that before he kind of reconsiders if that indeed does happen. Now, with Quinn Hughes being off the market now, lots of chatter around New Jersey media and New Jersey fans being very frustrated, very disappointed that they didn't get to reunite all three Hughes brothers in the NHL. We did learn some more from an Athletic story about what the Devils were offering and what Vancouver wanted from them to make it happen. And it would have been a comparable offer to Minnesota, although some feel that they would have liked a Wild offer better, which is why they went with it. But There was more to it from New Jersey than just having a good offer. There was, cap issues kind of played a role here too. Obviously, the offer was to be centered around Nemec being the primary defenseman going right now, along with Dawson Mercer. Anton Silyev, of course, was a high pick just very recently, and a first rounder. So they would get 2 defensemen. One with Nemec, I do think has star potential on the right side. Silyev could be a really good top 4 on the left side. Mercer might be more of a winger than a center, and I know they really wanted a center, but, and then a first-round pick. It's still a pretty good offer. I think they still, at the end of the day, like the offer from Minnesota better, but I do think the Devils made a really solid pitch. But the problem is that even if the Canucks wanted that and preferred that, because we know that they were going to factor in Quinn's wishes to some degree here, but they don't really have to. But ultimately, the New Jersey Devils could not take on Quinn's full contract without moving out other money. And they've been trying to move Dougie Hamilton. They've been trying to move Andre Palat. Both have trade protection, and it's preventing them from doing so. They've handed out way too many no-trade clauses amongst their contracts that GM Tom Fitzgerald has negotiated, majority of these during his tenure there, and they've kind of handcuffed themselves. At the time, some of these contracts might have seemed reasonable. They might have seemed like a good order of business, but some of them have not aged well, predominantly those 2 guys. But trading them is next to impossible because of the way the contracts, help the players kind of handcuff the team and to not moving them if they don't want to. So that's a big part of what happened here. We do know now a little bit more firm details on what New Jersey was talking about, how things kind of played out, and it is ultimately disappointing for the fan base to see that their GM really didn't manage the cap. Well, some are comparing it to the same concept as the Flyers a number of years back when they had the opportunity, knowing that Johnny Gaudreau was likely going to be available to them in free agency, to bring the home kid home, and they didn't plan ahead enough to really make any kind of solid offer, and he ended up signing with Columbus. So it's the same sort of concept that they should have been able to predict that, Quinn Hughes was going to be available to them either through trade or free agency within, a period of time. And they just never planned ahead enough, or maybe they didn't think that it was going to happen via trade this year. So they were kind of taking their time, making some moves, but they are handcuffed. It's absolutely true. And it's not helping them do really anything right now. So that's more on that story. New offer or new information tonight as well from RG.org and Marco D'Amico regarding Los Angeles Kings center Philip Danault. We've heard his name in a rumor mill, mainly saying that he was kind of open to a change of scenery. Wasn't real thrilled with his role in Los Angeles. He was struggling offensively. And, Elliot kind of downplayed in his podcast that he didn't really... and things could have changed here this week as well. But the last we had heard about Danault from Elliot Friedman was that he was, kind of not thrilled with his role, and it could lead to a trade. But according to Marco D'Amico, that he's asked for a trade now, and that he would like to be moved out of the Kings organization. And not only that, but he's really hopeful that they can find a move for him before the roster freeze this coming weekend. Now, his agent, Alan Walsh, is probably the most outspoken agent on social media. Shared the article from D'Amico and kind of called him out, saying he never denied the reports, but he said you didn't even check with me and called him a fake insider or something like that. But he had the opportunity to say this isn't true, and he did not say it. So, that should be notable right there. Teams mentioned that have been kicking tires, and I don't think anything's too serious right now or imminent, but the Canes and the Devils are teams that were mentioned, as well as his former club, the Montreal Canadiens. Apparently, Ken Hughes has kicked tires on the idea of bringing, of course, Danault back. We know he never played with this regime of management, of course. He was one of the last guys to leave during the Marc Bergevin era. Of course, Bergevin opted to not really make a good offer to him as a UFA after they had the bubble playoff run. Danault was a big part of their success that shortened season, and ultimately, made like always happens in free agency, he got a big overpayment from LA. Went out there for the most part. It's been a successful run for him, But as of late, it's kind of taken a different turn here. And, ultimately, if you look at the Los Angeles Kings, with Kopitar retiring, if they trade Danault as well, at least Byfield, their center depth is going to be greatly impacted for next year and beyond. So I don't know that the Kings are absolutely wanting to honor this request, but it sure sounds like he's out there looking for it right now. So we'll see where that goes. Should the Canadiens try to bring back Danault to the Canadiens? Let me know what your thoughts are on that scenario. We know they've been looking forever for a 2C. Is he the guy, or is he more of a 3C? So let me know what you think and that potential reunion there. And lastly, too, on TSN Insider Trading, Pierre LeBrun was talking about Rasmus Andersson in Calgary and how things are really picking up now that we saw the Quinn Hughes trade. There's not a lot of top four defensemen expected to be on the market ahead of this year's NHL trade deadline. And Rasmus Andersson, of course, was a name that teams have been watching for an extended time, knowing that he is likely going to be traded sometime during the season. Well, now that Hughes has been traded, for teams especially that missed out on him, are looking to a guy like Andersson as a potential replacement. There was already a number of teams that were interested as well. And LeBrun goes on to mention that he feels that the Toronto Maple Leafs have interest in Andersson. They had interest before trying to trade for him last year. It didn't work out. And then he does say as well, he believes Rasmus Andersson would consider extending with the Maple Leafs if a trade was able to be completed. Of course, we know the Calgary connection with Brad Treliving. We've talked before how a lot of reporters have indicated that during the trade negotiations between the Leafs and the Flames during this Treliving era as general manager, that they've been somewhat contentious negotiations. It just seems like at times the Flames have wanted a bigger return, that they weren't thrilled about helping out their former GM in Toronto. We call it the Toronto tax. I had some people kind of really hard debate me on that, and when last time I talked about it, it's not something I've made up. It's not something that I've strictly my opinion. It's been talked about numerous times throughout different reporters, different articles, different media. So, I mean, it just seems from what we've heard on the inside track here for talks between Calgary and Toronto that it seems like they want more from the Leafs than other teams to make a deal. They're just playing hardball with their old GM based on how things kind of ended there. At least that's the way things look and seem. Whether or not it still is that way, we'll have to wait and see. But if Rasmus Andersson would be a good fit with the Leafs, I do think that there's a fit there, especially with the health of Tanev being questionable. I mean, I know he was on the ice the other day in a regular jersey, so things are progressing that way. But if you look at overall the decor, to me, he does make sense for them. You got Carlos out longer term, Tanev with question marks. They were rumored to be looking to maybe move Carlo before. So again, between Carlo being trade bait when he comes back, Tanev's health being questionable, getting a top four right shot defenseman probably does make some sense. Somebody who can move the puck, can play on one of your two power plays if you wanted them to, and contribute offensively as well. So do you think that's a great fit and something that the Leafs should do? Hard to say what they would need to offer. I mean, that's one thing with the Maple Leafs now to pull off any trades is they don't have a lot of young assets and draft capital that they're going to want to part with, and the Flames are going to be looking for a decent amount in an Andersson trade, but especially if he's willing to sign an extension or does a sign and trade, it would be even more costly. But again, let me know what your thoughts. We'll talk about it further in the comment section. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.